Everybody can hear me? Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for being here today. We've got a marketing panel that we are going to be having some questions to go out to each one, and then after they answer questions, introduce themselves, answer questions, and we'll be able to take questions from the audience. So let's get started. So if you don't mind, let's start with Lisa. Everybody, if you could introduce yourselves and explain to us what you do and maybe your marketing background before cannabis.
Sure. My name is Lisa Snyder. I'm the founder and CEO of Toketivity, the global cannabis community for women. Before getting into cannabis, I have been working on the web since the mid-90s. I've had a web design business since 2006. I've been doing SEO and e-commerce since 2004. And that has been, the majority of my marketing background, basically.
Awesome. I am Dusty Arab. I'm currently the CBD brand manager at DM CBD. My background, I've only actually switched to cannabis pretty recently within the last year. My background is in B2B tech, digital marketing, all that good stuff. I wrote a best-selling book on Instagram.
My name is Aaron Heisler. I got my start in the cannabis industry working for the dispensary Jane. That's been my first technical marketing experience. I have a psychology background. I've done a bunch of entrepreneurial things in my youth, but got into the cannabis industry, working with great people, and was like, hey, let me go talk to people about this, and it's been working. So that's kind of my experience.
Awesome. Okay, so maybe let's start out with a question just right to you, Aaron, and Lisa and Dusty can follow up with it. So previous, cannabis experience, what skills have you implemented from your previous experience in the industry today? So.
Honestly, my lack of marketing experience is something that has been super helpful for me in the industry. I think a lot of folks that I know, there's so much in the academic world of marketing that centers around data and what you do with said data, and we're in an industry that doesn't have much data yet because they ain't been around for super long. So honestly, the background that I have from just learning a bunch of just interesting psychological concepts and how different people choose to think about and approach different things, and kind of applying that raw to the problems that we have in front of us and the goals that we're trying to achieve has really been the thing that's brought me the most success, I think.
Great. Maybe Lisa, possibly follow up with the skills that you've implemented pre-cannabis into the industry is now.
Yeah, I think everybody here can identify with using the internet as a tool for almost everything in your life. So taking just all of the work that I've done by building websites for other people and working with different kinds of businesses, doing all kinds of interesting things, everything from health counselors to a lot of women-owned and operated businesses. I have taken my web design skills and applied them into the cannabis space. I actually thought that maybe when I was starting out in the cannabis space that I would be doing websites for cannabis businesses. In fact, I just recently did one for Sugar Top Buttery, sitting over here. So I still do it on the side. But taking that skill that I learned and worked at for so many years. It's such a valuable skill. Everybody uses the internet for everything. So definitely utilizing that. And then a lot of my SEO skills absolutely come into play. Everybody Googles everything. And I've been implementing that with our website, toketivity.com, and any other websites that I work on. And then my e-commerce background really, really is coming into play because there's a lot of companies who are trying to sell things online, and e-commerce continues to be this growing industry where there's a lot of money to be had. There's also a lot of confusion around it and how to sell things online in the cannabis space, even CBD. There's it's really tricky right now for cannabis businesses. But so those are some of the skills that I've been I've had in my past and I'm applying now to the cannabis space.
Excellent. Okay, so Dusty, let's talk a little bit about ads and how we currently can't run traditional ads on digital marketing platforms, your usual ones. So maybe give us a little bit of insight into how do we work around this type of limitation?
Definitely. So just briefly, my earlier talk was definitely featured mostly on that. So if that's something you're really wanting information on, the whole presentation about it will be sent out at the end of the conference. I think that the most important thing to be aware of, particularly if you're someone who works with CBD, is how careful you have to be about the language. I've previously worked in highly regulated industries, like things like essential oils and supplements. They're already having to police their language in a way that the cannabis industry is finding is very difficult for them. But that doesn't mean that we don't have the ability to create original and organic content. It really just requires us to be a lot more creative. Specifically, you should be using influencers, brand ambassadors, use other people's platforms, basically. You can't say it, but it doesn't mean they can't say it.
That's a great answer. And Aaron, do you have anything to add to,
I think again, kind of in that same vein of just trying to approach problems that show up to all of us. Totally agree with what you're saying, particularly in the finding people that aren't you to help you with things, and also trying to explore non-traditional routes to do advertising things. I was in a little bit of the last talk with Christine and Trista from Gron and Empower, and that was something that they were briefly touching on, is that traditional advertising mediums have a lot of restrictions. And so if you can do things to identify the communities that you want to meet with and find ways that are creative to go about and do all these things, that's kind of what we've got and the challenge that we have in front of us on a lot of this stuff, I think.
Excellent. And Lisa, did you have anything to add about, non-traditional ads?
Yeah, I feel like in this space, you absolutely have to get creative. You have to think outside the box because, Facebook and Instagram don't really support, traditional ads. So I really feel like one of the biggest things that I'm a huge advocate of is like getting involved in events and like this personal experience kind of thing. Like it's the number one way to create an emotional bridge with somebody is to show them who you are, show them your product, show them the things that you care about. There's really no other way to reach people quite like that in that intimate way. So getting involved in as many events as you possibly can. It's just such a personal touch, no matter how big or small they are. People will remember like you, what you do, that that they know you, and people love that. They're like, oh, I know this woman, and she's doing this amazing thing, and there's like this connection. So it's about creating connections, like whether it's online or in person. Creating as many connections with your brand as possible, and events and participating in events wherever possible is definitely one of my number one recommended things.
To touch on that as well, there's a piece that you brought up that I think is an excellent point that, again, I've run into from my psychology background, is particularly in a market that is as saturated as the one that we deal with here in Portland and Oregon in general. If you're trying to make an intellectual argument to a person that's trying to buy a product from you, good luck. You touched on it, is trying to find a way to make an emotional connection to your brand with other folks. That's the jam, if you will.
Erin works with Jane, and Jane sponsored 4 of our events last year, and I thought that was a really great strategy to show up like not just like one time. You have to be in someone's mind like 5 times before they really remember you and what you do. And so, we have this thing like we give a free gift to the first 25 women that register for Toketivity, and it was so cool. Like each one of those gifts were like unique, something a woman would actually use, and not just like, I don't know, random things, swag that you get.
No lame swag. Don't do it. It's a waste of your money.
Yeah. But they had these cute little like stash bags and hats, and that's one in her bag. She can show you. But like things that are usable, things that people are going to use on a daily basis. Yeah, super cute. Yeah. And I thought that was such a great idea. Not only is it like usable, it's super cute, and it's something that like we'll remember, like, oh, like those people at Jane, I know them. They're, you know, they gave me things, and like I'm gonna return back there because I know them and I have this emotional connection. And I think that, you know, there is something to say of like giving away free things. If you can find that swag that kind of like works with people and finding ways to give that to them without it feeling kind of, I don't know, weird. There's some kind of,
Yeah.
you know, I think that's a great way to like market your business and have a strategic way that's literally in someone's pocket or purse or like whatever, and really pay attention to like who is it that you're trying to attract. Like Jane, I think, is trying to attract more women. That was a great strategy, making things for women that they're going to use, like having to think about the things you're giving away so that it comes back to you. Another awesome thing, which is a perfect bridge here too, is that you gave away some hats at one of our events, and our Chief Administrative Officer, Casey Weiser, happened to be wearing a hat when a press photographer came to take photos. That hat is now in Forbes, and that all happened like very quickly, very organically, and you just never know where your swag's gonna show up. So just putting it out there.
Right.
Good swag.
Yeah, one last thing on events.
Good people to give away the swag also, I would say.
Yeah, there you go. And actually on that, make sure it's not just cannabis events, guys. Like, I mean, especially if you're in the Oregon market, like, I mean, I love Tokativity and I love Jane, but you know what? Where I see everywhere, like, we're not doing good outreach if we're only talking to those communities. We need to be looking at women's wellness events. We need to be really expanding our reach and getting out of our communities, and finding different ways to like find that swag in other places as well. So definitely be thinking about, when you're looking at those sponsorship budgets, getting outside of the Portland cannabis community.
Yeah, that's a place that I've found a lot of success, and that's something that, again, Christine and Trista were talking about briefly, is that it can be discouraging to reach out to folks and be like, hey, I'm a responsible person that's not murdering babies. I happen to sell cannabis. Can I be at your event? You're going to get a lot of no's, but you also get a lot of yeses if you persist. And again, you know, being genuine to yourself and just kind of saying, hey, I'm just here to help educate folks and do all this fun stuff. It can be a lot of work, but don't necessarily need to get discouraged when going through that.
Also, a great strategy is like if you know somebody that has getting their photograph taken a lot, give them something to wear, and maybe they'll wear it in a photo. I mean, don't like force them to do it, but like, hey, I have something for you, you know. And like, I mean, you can ask like, will you take a photo, post this on your Instagram, tag us in it or something. Like, influencers and people in this space that people are looking to, I think, are looking to what brands do you trust, what brands are you supporting, and going towards that. You know, for their like word of mouth kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. That's really good info. Yeah, thanks. And so you had briefly touched on Instagram. I'm sure some people have experienced this with social media, especially, you know, on Instagram about accounts getting shut down. I don't know if anyone's experienced that in here. It can be certainly frustrating. Along the lines of that, are there any like tips or tricks you have to avoid this problem that you can share?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, focusing on education. Focus on if your platform says like nothing for sale. Yeah, I mean that's like a good start, guys. But realistically, like if you have a cannabis brand that is selling THC in Oregon, at least, you are legally required at the bottom of all those posts to say, you know, 21 and over only. There's like a whole little spiel you have to have on every single one of those posts. The reality is, though, that anybody's company that's your competition can come along and have all their buddies report your account. Like, and that's just the reality of it. And you can appeal it, but in my experience, the only way to get an account unbanned is if you know someone at Instagram. So realistically, like it's still like, you need the alt accounts. You need to be, you know, CYA and all that good stuff. But as far as like not getting banned goes, make sure you've got your disclaimers up there. Make sure you're really clear, and make sure you're not doing anything that's like the more language that you use, like cannabis, weed, pot, things like that, those are the things that get you triggered for ads. That's why you can't get ads up. You do need to consider how you're using those things on your social media as well, though, even with cannabis brands.
We have multiple accounts. We have like a main Toketivity account, and then we have accounts for our chapters in different cities. And I woke up one day and there was like 2 of them that had been shut down, and then later that day, like our Eugene one got shut. We were like really excited. We're like, yay, the Eugene. Nope, it died. But, you know, there is an appeals process, and we actually had success with the appeals process. There's a woman in the space, Best Buyers, who's gotten her account shut down like 9 times or 10 or something like that. She's got almost 100,000 followers. She's a photographer in the space, and she wrote an article about like how to get your Instagram back up and running, and, you know, and there's no guarantees. Like there's literally no guarantees. But I was like, I'm willing to try. And literally the strategy was like going to the appeals page for the businesses and filling out, it's like literally 4 pieces of information, and then submitting obsessively. Like I probably clicked it, 100 times a day. It sounds like a lot, but I was like, hey, you know, like, listen, like we didn't do anything wrong. We're not selling weed, you know. Even if you are, you know, tell them you're not. And
She's right now.
don't, you know, there's something to be said about people who really want to be super transparent. And unfortunately, in the cannabis space and in advertising, we have to be in like some gray areas. We have to sort of like bend a little bit until things change. But I want to say 30 days later, they must have like a cycle where they go through and look at the appeals and turn things back on. And then we had all of them turn back on. So I'm not saying that that is a guarantee, but it definitely helped us. And I would recommend that if your account does get shut down, or if you know somebody, that appeals process be started that way. Another thing that is happening is the websites. I don't know if this has happened to you or anyone you know, but our website actually got banned from Instagram. We couldn't write it anywhere. And all of our events are like toketivity.com/date here. And we got a little message saying like, you are against the terms of Instagram. Luckily, it wasn't like shutting down our account, but they wouldn't let us post it. So we were writing out toketivity.com, you know what I mean, for a while. And there's also an appeals process there too. It's connected to our Facebook page. So the appeals process was actually through Facebook this time. I mean, you have to be like paying attention to the message that you receive and then Googling the message, like what is the message that I received, so I can find out more information, because other people have had that happen. It's not just for cannabis companies, it's for anybody that's like being banned for whatever reasons, like, you know, being aggressive, sexual content, or like whatever. And so I did that through Facebook, and then I actually thought maybe we'd kind of cross our fingers and hope for the best. In 30 days we'd get it back, and it actually happened within less than a week. We were able to write our domain name again, and that is definitely happening with a lot of companies. Another thing that's happening is where your posts aren't really being seen. I mean, that's happening in general, but like the posts not being seen on purpose, they're like basically pushing you down so that like it's not shutting you off, and it's not telling you that you can't use your domain name, but it's definitely like, you know, you'll notice a difference if you're getting like 100 likes or something like that, and suddenly you're only getting like 3 or something. It's part of their secret, like, we're not gonna,
post-suppression.
Post-suppression
is definitely,
Yep.
It definitely is a thing. Instagram did release something in the last week on Twitter discussing how it's an algorithmic change. It's not allegedly it's not suppression, and it's not just the cannabis community. So it's not just us who's feeling that that additional push. But I mean, fundamentally, they're an ad platform, guys. So I mean, they're there to make money, and they're not making money off of us right now. So they don't have any incentive to keep us on there.
They would be, though, if we could pay.
Sure,
To, like,
I mean, we would like to give them our money, but
yeah. One other tip about this kind of stuff is that there's this new thing called like Linktree. I'm sure there's other services out there. You may see Linktree links on Instagram, but it's kind of a backdoor way to not have Instagram looking at your website. It looks at Linktree first, and then whatever links you're putting on there, whether it's like links to your website, links to other things. So we've started doing that so that they're not looking at it. As soon as we started getting our website sort of blocked or whatever, I moved to Linktree, and I do think that that's a great strategy for trying to avoid that kind of spidering, whatever things they have going on there for Instagram.
I don't have a ton of personal Instagram experience. I have other people that I work with that are much more passionate about that than myself. That being said, our Instagram account at Jane just got shut down not that long ago. And so the great advice that Lisa gave me personally, because we know each other, was to do the just spam them about sign up our account, and that didn't work. That being said, though, it provided a great opportunity for us to reach out to people that we work with in the industry like yourselves. And it was a really good opportunity. I mean, to make the best out of a not great situation, it was a really good way for us to reach out to the awesome community that we've developed, saying, hey, can you help us all out? And I think that's something that, if this is something that is to happen, it can actually be a driving force to have you actually reach back out to folks that you haven't talked to in a little while and just kind of get recoordinated with some folks. So,
I also wanted to say, like, there was.
Did you have them submit things too or something? Is that
No.
it was a new account.
We created a new account and then just reached out to all of our group of folks, but it was kind of nice to reconnect.
There was one time where we did get through the Facebook ad filter. I made it very generic. I was like, come join us. And on April 22nd, it was like a picture of like women being like, and, but like, here's the thing though, is that what Facebook does is that it spiders the website. So any words, keywords that they probably have on their ban list, like cannabis, those like anything, they'll spider it and say that this is being blocked because you are not agreeing with the terms. So one other way to go around doing that is if you have a landing page that doesn't say the word cannabis, that you're using things with a picture, they can't spider the picture. So they're spidering the words, just like Google spiders the words on websites. So, experiment. If you can get your entire Facebook advertising thing shut down, but if you, I don't know, make a backup one and use the backup one first and experiment there, that might be a great way to try it.
Yeah, no, she's absolutely right. I've seen people get through things like surveys through like Google Forms. So if you're trying to collect data on a specific thing and, like people's information for an event that's possibly cannabis related, but you can get around saying those words, if you can keep that totally separate, you can once in a while get an ad through. Something I mentioned earlier too is I've actually been able to get through ads on LinkedIn before without a problem. So that's something to keep in mind. That said, hashtags, anything cannabis oriented like that on LinkedIn, well, it's not being suppressed. It is pretty minimal. Like there's just not a lot happening in that community yet.
All right, and this is kind of a really good question that relates to this. So social media, you've touched on value. Like, what do you see as the real value for social media for cannabis brands? Being that you can be banned without warning. So maybe touch on that, and then as well as like, what are some good social media platforms, along those lines, that can offer value?
Yeah, I have, so I'm a unique one in all of this, that again, I've never really been a social media person. My personal view of the website and the social media piece has been, those pieces aren't going to drive traffic to my dispensary, but if someone happens to look at it and it looks like garbage, it will drive them away. Now that being said, after we've gone through this, having an Instagram thing shut down, and again, reaching out into our community and stuff like that, there's a bunch of value in social media. I was totally wrong about that. So it has been a unique learning experience for me, at least, coming not from the same world that you both are.
Okay. So I work primarily with a CBD brand. So for me, social media is huge. I can definitely see the ROI from when I'm posting versus when I'm not posting. Also stories, being able to take people backstage. It doesn't always have to be about the perfectly curated feed. And I definitely, I'm an Instagram girl. That's definitely where I spend the majority of my time. I have a lot of experience in Facebook and groups, and that could be a great way to get your people information as well. Recently, we have a full brand ambassador program with DMCBD, and we're working on a Facebook group to invite people in so that they can come and get that information in that group. So they're additionally opting in for that information. But at this point, we haven't seen Facebook shutting down those kinds of groups that are there for, information and things like that. So getting people off of the page and into, honestly, as soon as you can get them off of the social media platform, that's really where the value add happens. Anytime you can track links That's, I mean, Lisa's right. Linktree is where it's at, guys. If you can be tracking those specific things, then you can start tracking the ROI of your social media efforts, and that's the most important part of social.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, sure, yeah. So the real value for social brand, or for social media for brands that are in the cannabis industry, you know,
I think that everybody goes, I mean, I would say most people are on their phones a lot, and it's like Instagram and Facebook are kind of like the go-to places for a lot of different things and pieces of information. I think that people go there first to look up who you are. What are you doing? You know, what kind of things are you posting? What does it look like? Is it curated? Is it just random stuff? Do you care about what you're putting out there? You know, like, our feed, like, we put out information. Some of it's definitely like curated, designed, but we're not like obsessing over the way that it looks so much, that we just want the information to get out there. So, like I do think that looking at, your Instagram account is just like, it's a go-to place. You have to, if you're in cannabis, you should definitely be on Instagram and be getting creative about it. I have seen a lot of the Instagram accounts that are curating, that are making like a certain look and a color scheme and everything. They get followers way faster because people are just obsessed with like beautiful images on Instagram. I think that there is a value to, being on things like, and being as visible as possible, like, because no matter where you are, if you're spending time or not, that SEO for your business is super key. Like, you want to come up in Google no matter what. So make a Facebook page, make a whatever pages you can get for free without paying for it, do it, because it's really just going to help with your the Google SEO that you can get from just people trying to find you. And then make your website a place, that you can control, because, I think that hosting companies they're not shutting down cannabis companies. They don't care. They got a million things to do. So your website is definitely a place where you can do a lot of different things and communicate a lot about what's actually going on with your business. And you don't need to rely 100% on social media to tell everybody what's going on. Just let them get back to your website, and then you can use that space for whatever you want.
The SEO piece that you just touched on, like, by happenstance, I did a survey of customers at Jane just to kind of like, what different online resources are you using, like lead maps, whatever, Google. That's what people do.
yeah, that's a really good point. Content, content and links. Yeah. Okay, so we all go to cannabis events. We all like it when places have dab bars, I'm sure. Most people do, maybe, I don't know. But so, let's say you're a cannabis brand and you're producing, you're a manufacturer, you're in that production side, you're a grower, dispensary. Beyond the dab bar, how can a brand or brands create additional value through events? Kind of like one we had last night.
Yeah. I think finding the balance of the different crowds that you're trying to get and what events those people want to go to, putting yourself in the mind of the consumer that you want to buy things from yourself, and then saying, if I'm this person, where am I going to be on Thursday night? Some of that is going to be at cannabis events and at the dab bars, like we were talking about that. Some of that's going to be wherever, farmers markets, wherever people go. And I think connecting with the communities that, that's the first place to start, just talking to your neighbors, seeing what they what they do and what they're into. But it takes some wherewithal.
Maybe not having bad swag. Like
yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Totally agree with all of that. So, can you ask the question again? I kind of got lost
sure,
on
yeah.
that.
No,
Sorry.
it's all good. So it's just aside from having a dab bar, like what else can you add to an event? Like, not having bad swag, and what else can you bring, and how do you present yourself? And
I think you present yourself as who you are, whoever that is. That's something that I have noticed amongst brands that have that I have been seeing have success is they're themselves, whoever that is, you know, like, I am not a woman. If I were to try to do toketivity events, that wouldn't fit for me. I would love to do that, but that's just not the person that I am, and that's cool, you know. Finding what it is that you are and being true to that and seeing where it fits, I think is something that's key to being able to find success at events. The other piece too is we're cannabis. Like, it's the only new industry left in the world right now. It's sexy. Like, that's what you're providing as value to folks is cannabis. That's not invasive, you know?
With our events are like experiential. So I think that that's an amazing way to like create an experience. It's not just like, you know, sitting at a table giving pamphlets. And then, of course, that's absolutely an option. That's what a lot of people go to because it's easy, just like, here's information. But like creating experience. So we usually have like, you know, healers and like Reiki and like people doing what it is that they're really good at. And we have a craft table at our events, and that's a great place to like talk to people about just all kinds of things. And so like creating an experience, like whatever is key and whatever is helpful for getting the message across. So if you have like a CBD line, you know, like where can you be where you can create experiences? Like, can you give free hand massages? You know, can you like work with somebody who wants to, you know, like what is the extra thing that you want to provide? Like show people how to use your product if you can get access to it. I think CBD right now is like, it's really hot and it's really exciting for lots of cannabis companies who are getting into it. And it's such a great way to like make a bridge with people who may not necessarily, be exposed to cannabis. And you know, like you were saying, like going out to farmers markets and like normalizing as much as possible, if you feel comfortable enough to do that, getting out there and doing some of those kind of things, and you know, being maybe the only cannabis company that's out there, that's what you have to do. But you're going to be memorable to those people, you know, who never have ever seen or talked to anybody, because it's still there's so much stigma and there's so much secrecy still that we need to be the ones stepping up and educating people.
Has anybody ever been to a Candescent event? All right. Please God, if any of you guys get down to California here in the next year, get yourselves to a Candescent event. I don't think there's anybody in the industry who's doing it better right now. When you walk into one of their events, there's no question of why you're there. There's no question of like what they're about. I had the privilege of attending an event after New West Summit, and it was I don't remember the thing that they were celebrating, but it was extra. And you walk in and there's a champagne bar. And it's really high end, and the people are all dressed in candescent colors, but it's not. It would be really easy for the orange to be hokey and stuff, but it's not. They did have a dab bar, and they had like a vape station. But when you went over to the vape station, you couldn't just go over there. It was like a whole education. Like by the time you walked away, you were going to be able to give somebody else Candescent's brand proposition on every one of their flowers. Like whichever you smoked, like you're going to be able to deliver it, and you're going to be glad someone asked you to do it. Like there are so many ways that you can make someone feel special just by putting them in the right atmosphere. And I think that is something that a lot of events fall short on. Like you can have all the stuff, you can give them all the freebies, but what really matters is the way you make them feel when they're at that event. And I think that's something that as an industry, like it's okay that we're stoners, guys. Like, it's okay that we're, like, this is what we came for. It's okay to bring in some of that and also elevate that conversation a little bit. And I think a lot of events they have the ability to give that experience to someone. So think about your culture. Think about the different things that your brand has to offer that makes someone feel special. What's the thing that your brand has to offer that is really going to get under someone's skin and just be like, oh my God, have you done this yet?
You know, making people feel a thing, not think a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, engaging in emotion, right? Because everything's an emotional thing. So very cool. I personally like it when trade shows have food, like big old stacks of sandwiches. I always remember those.
Noted.
Okay, cool. And let's touch on, and maybe you can speak to the evolving cannabis culture and how brands can use and build culture within their own organization and products.
I can start on that.
Go for it.
So, I think that, we keep touching upon events because I think it's just like something, we do events all the time. So like, that's my go-to thing. But like creating experiences, like you were mentioning is, making something memorable, like that someone feels something. I am, just a sorry, can you repeat the question?
Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah.
I was like,
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, speak to the evolving cannabis culture.
culture. Thank you very much. So like the truth is that like cannabis has been legal here for several years, and we are creating a culture together. We are deciding how do people use this plant, where do they use this plant, how does it make you feel. It's next leveling now, and I think it's happening in like all of the states that are legal. So where are you participating in that? So something as simple, I think Yerba Buena has like this hat that says "Be Buena." And it's just so simple. It's like a simple message. And they have, they gave me a free hat, and I'm just like, it's a hat that I want to wear. I want to present that to the world. I want everyone to be buena. Like, I'd like to be buena. So it's like the messaging. It's the messaging that's creating a culture. It's you showing up in that space, participating in that language and that conversation about creating the culture. A lot of the articles have been written about toketivity have been in like the culture category. It's because like we're next level. We're deciding as consumers, like, what are we doing with our time and combining cannabis with our time. So participate in that conversation, be a part of the culture, be a part of the movement, be creative with your the things that you're doing, and that will help you to be a part of that conversation, that culture conversation.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay. And then, so as far as we've talked a lot about social and events, beyond that, what ways can companies build their brand presence aside from social media and events? What other things can they do?
Brand partnerships. I know that Empower and Groon were just in here talking about the power of that, but especially, anything we can all do to amplify each other. That is the fastest way for us to achieve normalization. If there are lots of us talking about it in lots of different places, that's our best opportunity to be able to do that. Besides brand partnerships, I would actually also like to see a lot more inclusion of, I'd like to see a lot more earned media. I'd like to see us earning media, guys. Cannabis companies doing more things like out in the community. Even if it's like sponsoring, like we're looking at like sponsoring a softball team that's going to be like going up and down the West Coast. It's just going to be jerseys and stuff, but like athletics and cannabis, like finding different specific avenues to make it more accessible, to start a conversation.
I can't agree with you more on both of those fronts. I think whatever it is that you do as a cannabis business, finding other people that fit the other categories in which you are not. So if you're a vertically integrated company where you do flower and you do oil and you do, you're not going to do, I haven't run anybody that's also doing topicals and also doing edibles and things along those lines. But most of the folks that I've dealt with do a thing. Empower does topicals, Grand does edibles. Finding people that their product speaks to you and you click with those people, and just finding the folks that are like that on the brand partnership side. If you're all in the same place, there's more of you there, and you can split costs in that fashion, and you can also just build things up. When out at farmers markets, like you were talking about, that I've spent a lot of time at with a booth for Jane, it's kind of fun at the end of the day, because you get some people that are like, what's the weed? You know, basically you see like them pick up like in their step and just walk by real fast. And then you'll see, a lot of times you'll see somebody doing that and then their partner just like look back at me and wink. Like, I don't remember why that was relevant, truth be told. It's been a long stretch of conference.
Cross promotion.
Cross promotion
is key.
Yes. Yeah. If you have, when you have people at events, this is why this was relevant. Not everybody's into everything. There are some people that are in the market for topicals and topicals only. There are some people that are in the market for flower only. There are some people in the market for edibles and edibles only. Some people have crossover between those things. But if you are just a flower company or just an edible company, if there's people that walk by that want the opposite thing and you don't personally sell the thing that they're into in cannabis, they're gone. If you have somebody else hanging out with you that's working with you at the same time, they may be attracted to that person there. They may get more exposure to your brand thing, and then they may give you a shot. The brand, the finding partners that mesh with you as the individual you are, super into that.
Yep, I second or third on the partnerships. I think that especially if you don't have money, partnerships, they're so helpful to people who are, doing other things that you can't do and you're doing something they can't do. Trade has been an absolute huge thing that has really helped us to get to where we are after 2 years. If there's something that you can offer, like we have advertising, we have a business membership, we have sponsorship opportunities. Like those are all like advertising ways, like where people are not spending money, but then like we're trading for advertising, in magazines and stuff like that and other kinds of different situations. So if there's anything that you can use, even your own personal skills to trade and like have some kind of value there. I have been doing trade work like for a really long time, and as long as it's very clear like what it is, what the exchange is, it's really helpful. Also, coming back to the website, like this is definitely like your online business card, and it doesn't have to be like expensive. It just needs to have the message of that you want to deliver to people when they come and help them to take action. Like, what is it you want them to do? Do you want them to come into your store? Do you want them to contact you for more information? Do you want to sell something online? Like, what is it you want to do? Make sure your website is like in a really good place. And like I said, it doesn't have to be expensive or super fancy. It has to look all right. It can't look like it was made in like 1999, like animated GIFs are coming back, y'all, but it's not appropriate for your website, really. And then, Google SEO, like I'm a digital strategist. I've been doing this since 2004, and it really can't emphasize enough, like, very well how much people Google everything. So make sure that you're in Google, make sure that you're doing what you need to do with your own website to be seen. And, like if you don't find your own website, like when you Google yourself, that's a problem. But no one's going to find you. So let's put it out there.
Absolutely. Okay, one last question to the panel, and then we're going to open it up to questions from the audience. So how do small businesses, or how can small businesses succeed with all of the big money really coming into the space? And, within Oregon, too, we've seen an absolute change in that over the last, few years, where it was, the recreational law was put into place to really take all the businesses that were already growing and producing and, take this industry we already had and, make it legal. But now we've seen big business come in, and we've seen huge amounts of money come in. So how can small businesses succeed against that?
Grow up and become a real business owner. I have really strong opinions about this. You can totally play the small business game and be a mom and pop shop, but you damn well better do it like better than anybody else is doing it. You have to, if you don't have money, you have to be so much more creative. You have to be willing to go and have those kinds of conversations one-on-one with people and really like make sure you're facilitating those kinds of like really strong, intimate connections where people are going to do the word of mouth thing for you. Not everybody is made for that. And honestly, like taking money from an investor is not the worst thing that could possibly happen to you either. I think there's a lot of, I know moving from black market to a recreational market has been very difficult for some folks, and I've had no experience in the black market, so I have no right to say anything about any of that. But like, it's like we're here to do business, guys. Like, you got it. We're here to do business now.
Yeah, I very much agree with that. I think that when it comes to, especially in the incredibly, like, I don't have any statistics but to back this up, but everything that I've run into for a lot of folks is that, like, Oregon and Portland is one of the most competitive markets in the world, if not the most. As such, the folks that I have seen as small businesses that have succeeded are people that are true to themselves, whatever that may be. If you're in this to make $1 million and that's why you want to run a small business, that ain't gonna work. If you are very passionate about whatever it is you do and whatever it is you produce, and you're willing to go through the hardship that it's gonna take, and like you're saying, you know, putting on the adult pants and doing the stuff that sucks, but you just gotta do in order to keep your passion alive and make the imprint that you want to and the impact that you want to on the world in your cannabis space. Being true to that. And if you sit down at the end of the day and look yourself in the mirror and you know what, this is not that, I'm not that person, go for it, good luck. Because you're going to be fighting against a bunch of people that are incredibly passionate. I moved to Oregon 2 years ago. I was a consumer on the black market, not a provider, and that's something that I have seen in coming out here to Oregon, and felt very lucky to have run into folks like yourselves that I've gotten to work with. But there are so many incredibly talented, incredibly passionate, and just incredibly positive and good people doing all of this. It's awesome, and that, I think, is something that's going to help the Oregon market continue to be one of the world leaders, particularly. But that would be kind of my advice, is just be genuine with yourself about what you're doing and what you want to do and where you want to go with it.
Yeah, I want to second that. And like, I think you have to have a lot of intention with what you're doing, and you have to make people care about what you're doing. And if you care about what you're doing, it will automatically translate to what, you know, to them, and them caring about what you're doing. If you know, maybe there's nonprofits that are really important to the cannabis industry that you're like donating a portion of your proceeds to, and you can participate in that, and then letting people know, like, I am supporting, you know, New Leaf this month, and here's what they're about, and making those kind of bridges, I think, is really important. And yeah, however you can, you know, if you don't care about what you're doing, it's absolutely going to translate as well, and you're going to lose it really quickly. You're going to lose people's interest, especially when there's so many brands out there. I think also cannabis is a very personal experience. Everybody's experience is their own, so finding, you know, like ways to communicate that personal experience. Like, I'm thinking about Sugar Top Buttery's variety pack. I think that it's such a cool way to communicate that, yeah, we acknowledge that everyone feels different all the time, and you may not want to feel the same, and that you can choose your experience through just a simple variety pack. I know that Sugar Top Buttery is caring about the personal experience of the consumer, and that is just like one small way to communicate, like, you know, that they care, and it's translated through that product.
Good example and good answers. Okay, so I just wanted to open it up. Does anyone have any questions? Samantha?
I have a question. Marketing, especially as a cannabis business that is just super spread thin, with time, money, all of the things, do any of you have tips for saving time and energy on your marketing that I could literally do all day long?
Automation. Yeah, so that's definitely something that is really important to me. Coming from a tech background, is being able to use a lot of those same tools. So we got 4 here, and these are all cannabis friendly, guys. Number 1, Planoly. Planoly is how I pre-schedule all of my Instagram posts. I do it at the beginning of the month-ish. I do go add stories in there organically.
How do you spell that?
Planoly. Ly. Think about that real quick. Number 2 is Tailwind. If you do anything on Pinterest, and if you're a CBD company, you can start to be doing stuff on Pinterest. You can't sell stuff on there, but they will let you have educational infographics and things like that. And Pinterest sends huge amounts of traffic to website guys. Again, with the SEO, Pinterest is like fucking killer. So Tailwind will help you be recirculating those guys through there. You can also use it on Instagram. And then the other one is if you really want to grow a good following, Like Growers. Like Growers is a bot that simulates organic engagement with the brands that you're already targeting. Like, they're a hand, Like Growers.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
I've been using it for over a year. I've never gotten banned. I've never even gotten like a like shutdown.
Can you say again what it does? It creates-
Like Growers.
creates-
It simulates organic engagement. So it goes and likes and accounts.
Oh, okay.
Likes, yeah.
Not liking cannabis growers.
Not just liking
growing
cannabis
the numbers
growers.
of likes you
Yes, there we are. Yes. But those ones are all fantastic. If you're not using SMS to contact your people, especially if you're a dispensary, you are missing out. Active Campaign has specifically, so they're an email marketing company that has SMS functionality, and they are pro cannabis, and they'll let you be on there, and they won't even like take your list out from underneath you like MailChimp will. So don't use MailChimp, guys.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Active campaign.
All right, good. Any other questions? Yeah.
I'm just wondering in general, SEO is kind of new to me, so it's a huge learning curve. Are there any resources that you can recommend to kind of get a grasp on that?
Yeah, so there's a ton of, like, if you Google, like, SEO training, free training, there's probably a lot of different things. For WordPress specific websites, I really like Yoast SEO. Like, they're a plugin that supports SEO, and they also have a bunch of training on like how their tool works best with certain things. You still have to do the work to make all the stuff and to write all the things, but it gives a lot of suggestions, and it kind of like holds your hand a little bit. And yeah, they want you to use their stuff, and they want you to buy the bigger package or like whatever. So they are trying to train you on what kind of things work. I don't really know of any other specific, training, but there's a ton out there. And, Google is, I tell like my clients, like Google is like a game. You can learn how to play the game, but you're not guaranteed to win unless you are paying Google like with AdWords, which is a completely different thing. I don't even think they're really doing anything with cannabis right now at all. So it's all about the organic SEO as much as possible, and creating as many accounts as possible to lead them back to your website. And like working with some of the things that you do know, like about, just even having a website, even having a blog, something that Google can catch more pages, that really expands how many pages are in Google that say your name. So set some things up, even if it's just a couple sentences or automation with Instagram or other posts. There's this thing called IFTTT. It's kind of a nerdy thing, but if you Google it, it's like, you know that? Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
super
cool.
helpful.
Yeah. You can make little recipes for things. If I post on Facebook, then post on my blog.
That feature is an Echo, by the way. Amazon Echo. You can do all sorts of amazing.
Oh my God, cool. Yeah.
The other interesting one on that doesn't like solve all the problems in the universe, but it's kind of a low dangling fruit thing that I've seen people pass up, is that if you're working with different vendors, put your links on each other's fucking web pages, because why not?
Link backs, yeah, link backs matter a lot for SEO, especially from high quality resources. That's huge.
Yeah, I just want to put this out there that we have a resource page on Toketivity. So if y'all have a business, you can email us, and we'd love to know more about it and to add an SEO-friendly link to your website, to ours.
Yeah, those are really good points. Does anyone have any? Oh, hey, question. Yeah.
You guys touched on some really good things there, but I'm wondering, like, in the area of inspiration, like, is there anything, like a podcast that you like to listen to as far as marketing goes, or books that you've read, or like a
I'm obsessed with Gary Vaynerchuk. If anybody doesn't know him, he is crazy, but also totally real, like a total truth teller. Says the F-bomb every other word, but he's just like a no bullshit kind of guy, and he is on the pulse of. He has a media company. I think he has like 800 employees. He knows every single one of his employees. He's very personal. He actually this is maybe not the like advice that I would give, but like somehow he finds time to respond to every single person that ever posts on his anything. He will write back personally, and that takes a lot of his time, and I have no idea how he does it. But he's just always like asking people, like the kids, like, what kind of things are you using? Like, we're not trying to market to kids, but at the same time, they're the ones who are using the online tools first. And he really is on the pulse of a lot of things. He has like short videos and stuff. Definitely follow him on all the things, and be entertained. Gary Vaynerchuk, but he also goes by Gary V because his last name is really hard to spell.
I hate that guy.
Why do you hate him?
I hate everything about him and everything on his platform. He does have a pulse on the media and stuff, and he has been take it with a salt shaker. I actually don't listen to any podcasts. As far as like classic marketing materials, though, Jim Collins. Jim Collins has a handful of marketing books out that are all excellent. I think what is actually more important is identifying what you personally are really good at and the way that you communicate. So I'm a huge fan of StrengthsFinder 2.0. I think learning how to articulate things in your way, the way that you want to, and then kind of learning how to use those platforms. That said, who I follow for Instagram advice is Hillary Rushford.
I'm in the same boat. Again, like not a whole lot of marketing background, bunch of ADD. I don't really like to read if I don't have to, truth be told. Looking to the people that, again, starting in your community, whatever that may be, that pique your interest. Talk to them, see what they're doing. If you see something that you like and resonates with you, call that person. Say, hi, I like this. What's happening? See what you can learn. That's kind of my approach personally.
Yeah, all really good answers. And just FYI, Google News, you can go onto Google News, throw a filter in there, marijuana, cannabis, marketing, all that, and it'll just filter stuff over to you. And just, it's a good way to keep up. And there's lots of apps too, but all of this is really good information. So does anyone have any more questions? No more questions? Awesome. Well, I think we're almost, we're out of time now. So I want to thank Lisa Snyder from Tokativity, Dusty Arab from DMCBD, and then Aaron Heisler from CCC, and Jane, of course.
A lot of other things.
A lot of other things. All of these professionals are exactly that. They're professionals. They know what they're talking about. They're fantastic in the areas they work in, and so we want to thank you for your time today very much.
Thank you.
And thanks for letting me